Hi everyone. Hey, we're going to look at adjusting images. This is the before and this is the after. The before, the after. Canva can do many things, including really good image correction. There's lots you can do. Let me show you how to get the most from image adjustments inside of Canva. All right, to get started, can you create a poster? I'm looking for a portrait poster. I don't mind. I just typed in poster up here in the little plus, okay? And I don't mind if it's in inches or in kind of the A sizes metric. Just make a portrait one for me. And then I want you to import two images. They're in your exercise files. They're called image adjust 1 and image adjust 2. Put them on the page. And what I want you to do is I want you to duplicate. We're going to start with this one. And I'm going to have two of them. So we'll leave this one down the bottom as a kind of like before, and we'll do this one as an after we work our magic. Now using two images of mine, okay, they're just shots I took of my local village. There's some really cool features in there. Thatch cottages. Okay, and what we're going to do though is, because I've shot my own images, you know, I didn't have all the settings perfect in the camera and they're a little bit not perfect. Okay, so if you are using images from stock library site, somebody's already corrected them, but there's lots of times you have to use your own images. So let's get the best we can out of them. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, I've got it selected. We can go to this edit option here, and there's this one here called adjust. Okay, and what we're going to do, you can hit auto adjust, stand back, and it's pretty good. You might only do that. I'm going to undo that just to give you a few tips on how to edit your own images. Often if I don't care that much about it, I'll just hit auto and off I go. If it's kind of like a really important shot, I'll spend more time. And the trick I'm going to give you, well, my tricks are, is this order of like how to adjust them isn't necessarily start with this and start with that and that. I'll give you the way that I kind of get it into shape the quickest is down the bottom here under this texture. I mess around with clarity and sharpness first. Don't worry too much about like what they actually mean. What is blacks versus shadows? What you'll need to kind of understand is like the effect on the image. So I've got it selected. Over here, sharpness and clarity are very similar, but you can kind of, you know, they're the same words. They just a different algorithm in the background that is trying to adjust the image. And clarity is probably the most exciting one. You can get so much out of an image with just a little bit of clarity, okay? Then deciding on how much gets applied. The trick with all of these sliders is don't worry about where the number is. Click, hold your mouse, and don't be looking at the slider, be looking at your image. And then I do this all the time, just going back and forth, and I jiggle, 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 until I find something I'm like, that seems good. And then I look at the number, I'm like, 29. Okay, sometimes I've lived it, you know, it's gone to negative and sometimes it's gone to positive because you can go less and above. Where was I at? About 29. Same with sharpness. I'm just going back and forth. Oh, it's amazing what you can get out of an image. So I've gone quite high on sharpness, not because sharpness needs to be high, just because me dragging it back and forth. So I start with these two and then I'll jump back up to this group of light. I feel like this is the next best group to deal with. And again, don't worry too much about brightness versus highlights versus whites because they all kind of the same thing. They're dealing with different parts of the white spectrum. Okay, more again, start at the top here, click, hold, drag, and then look at your image and go, do I want it there? Is it too much? Too much? Back, back. I've decided it needs to be brighter. And then left and right here. Okay, where do I want it to be? Oh, nothing. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, I look back, I'm like, 3. Okay, so I'm going to work my way through these. I'll speed through them. Well, there you go. There wasn't much done to it, but if you can kind of see the difference between this one and this one, I don't know, it's quite significant. Next one I will look at is probably temperature. Okay, temperature, it's just a really gloomy day, and it was a gloomy day, and it's pretty typical for Ireland. Okay, so I'm just going to warm it up, not much. Okay, I'm not going for that one, but I'm just going to warm it up. Okay, you might live in a really sunny part of the world, or it might be shot indoors. Okay, and you need to warm it up. Tint, something's gone wrong with your camera if you're dealing with tint too much, okay, which happens, especially if you're shooting inside where there's some funny lights going on. I don't often use it. The next one is these two. They basically do the same thing in this program. They should be very different, but they're quite similar. Watch this. Crank up vibrance, back down to 0. Saturation, doing very similar work. What you'll find is just use vibrance. Vibrance tends to, but it doesn't seem to be as extreme in Canva, that normally when you crank this up, it will kind of raise up the colors. It'll raise up the saturation of colors that are currently not saturated. Okay, it kind of looks at all the colors that are quite weak and bumps them up. And that often gives you a good look. Whereas saturation generally just grabs them all and yanks them up. But in this, it's so subtle that just use vibrance. Now we could just sit here and discuss them all forever. Okay, you can reset them there. Okay, but I don't know. I feel like you can get some really good results dragging the sliders back and forth, not worrying too much about what the sliders mean and more about the end product. Now I'm not going to make it a class project, but what I'd like to do is this option here I've left for you to experiment with. Do the exact same thing I just did. Okay, make sure you go to edit, go to adjust, and you can work any way you want. There's no right way. I'll just give you the ways that I You know, I've done this a million times, so I kind of start down here. I know I get the big results out of a couple of things, and that gives me my good starting point. All right, have fun playing around with this is actually a school near me. It's got such the cool building. And if you do like this kind of editing stuff and you're like, oh, this is pretty cool, I wish I did more, you might want to check out, I've got a Lightroom course or a Photoshop course as well. You can check those out wherever you found this course. But yeah, cross all over. Enjoy playing around with the school, adjusting the colors. Make sure you have a before and after as well so you can see your handiwork. This doesn't need to be supplied as a class project, just something for you to play around with. All right, enjoy. I'll see you in the next video.